All right, welcome back, everybody, for another episode of Hidden Gems. I realize it's been a couple of weeks, but I was laid up pretty hard with what I at first thought was of the flu because I had tested positive. I mean, tested negative for COVID, and then it ended up actually being COVID. So I'm still kind of dealing with it a little bit. I mean, everything's all clear, but I still got a little bit of the symptoms. So if my voice goes on me, that's why. So from what I hear, it might take another week or two before this all kind of clears out. But that all said, I am trying to get back to the regularly scheduled programming, so I have returned with another Hidden Gems. Hopefully, you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Check out the memberships if you're curious and hit that join button. And if you want to see what books I have for you this week, I got another artist selection for you as well as some other randomness to share. Just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I will be right back. All right, so going back to the regularly scheduled programming. It's been a while since I've done one of these, so we are going to start off first with our quick little artist retrospective. This is where I'm going to spotlight an artist and kind of go through some of their highlights and some of their early works and things like that, and also share some cheap things that you still might be able to grab right now for the artist of choice. And for this week, I decided to go with Miss Stephanie Hans. She's a French illustrator. She's been around a little over a decade now in the comic industry, but I'd still probably say the thing that most people probably know her best for is Die, which was a great series. To be fair, I didn't finish reading it, not because I wasn't enjoying it. It's just I fell behind, and now me collecting and getting everything organized so I can get back into reading all the issues. It's difficult because I'm not very organized. But I did read the first couple of arcs, and I was enjoying the series. And it only lasted 20 issues, 20 like a 20-sided die, and yeah, it's pretty darn good. That said, this is probably the thing, like I said, most people know her best for. She's done plenty of variants, don't get me wrong, but this particular series had some fantastic art throughout, and she did, most of the, I think she did the entire, the interiors as well. I don't know if she missed any issues, or there any fill-in artists that I don't recall, but it was a pretty great run from 2018. You could just see some of the covers here as just an example. It was 20 issues long. You could see the makeup of the cover. That's how you can actually roll that up, and you would fold it up to make a 20-sided die. So that's where the issue numbers kind of bounce around from those different spots on what would end up being a 20-sided die if you were to put that all together. That said, great series. So if you haven't read this, it's like Dungeons and Dragons, like a parallel world that the characters go into. One of the characters gets lost. It's pretty cool story. Go check it out if you haven't read it yet. And like I said, gorgeous art throughout. Now, the next thing I want to bring up is that she does have a brand new cover that's coming out. I think came out this week for this new Boom series, Briar, and I think this was the FOC cover. So I think you had to. This is like the final order cutoff for shop. So this wasn't one of the announced variants at first, but this is one of the ones that get add on there at the end, which is again pretty cool cover art. I mean, she has like a little bit of like a haunting style, like in the eyes. There's something about her work that's just it just draws you in, and it's just like some could be creepy, and otherwise it could also just kind of entice you and pull you kind of in. And this I haven't read this series yet. I did order this cover because, like I said, I do like Stephanie Hans, which is why I'm spotlighting her here. But this is a cover that I'm looking forward to getting. So I had to order this online because I wasn't, like I said, I've been laid up, so I haven't been able to really go out to the shops to go do my regular normal hunting. So I had to do a lot of online shopping the last 2 weeks. But if you're curious about Miss Stephanie Hans's first cover work, and I believe her first work in the comics industry, I believe it's actually this one shot to this Women of Marvel Firestar one shot from 2010. And from what I can gather, I believe this is her first comic book work. And granted, she's worked for Marvel, she's worked for DC, she's done indie stuff, some Image stuff, some Boom stuff. She's made the rounds and has worked for most of the publishers out there. And then, like I said, again, one-off variants here, some incentive variants throughout. But this, I believe, was her first comic work. So it's one to keep an eye out for because it's not impossible to find, but it can be a little tough because it's an oddball little thing. It's a one shot after all, and it does okay. You can see here copies can sell anywhere from like 13 bucks, 20 bucks, up to like $37. I actually just bought one of these myself for like 10 bucks. I found a seller had one, so I made an offer and offered 10 bucks plus shipping. So I did get one of these for myself. In doing my research, I kind of wanted one because I like collecting artists' first works. So this was one I figured for 10 bucks. I'm in. Now, if you want to go shopping for one, you can see there are options out there as well. 12 bucks, buy it now, $15 with best offer. I think that's the seller I bought from. They have a couple more copies. And like I said, I offered 10 and they accepted. But and they see $25 is another option. So there are copies out there. It could be, a little pricey, but like I said, this is not something you're going to see every day. But maybe you could find this tucked away at your LCS for like cover or cheap and just get yourself a nice little first artist work for for pennies on the dollar. So that's why I'm letting you know. Now, these next books are not going to be cheap books or books that you're probably going to find at your LCS for a bargain, but these are some of her more notable variant work, including this gorgeous Black Widow cover. I think I've covered these. Some of these I think I covered on Chasing Ghosts, if not on other series here on the channel. But this is definitely one that it's just gorgeous cover with the whole outline and the framing of that. And then we got this is 2010 to 2013. These first couple that we're kind of sharing here. I know Fearless Defenders was one that was recommended as a ghost that we covered early on in that series, and then that Young Avengers. I think I did the Young Avengers somewhat recently as well. Not easy to find books, so these are tough variants for hers, and are pretty darn expensive as well. Some other variants she's done more recently than that, I mean, that was 2010 and 2013, are these ones from like 2015 to 2019, where we have that A-Force #1 from the first volume, that Singularity cover, which, it got all kinds of heat once Thor Love and Thunder was hitting there because of, by now you've probably seen it, but you know why that one started heating up, and I actually did have a 9.8 of that, but I sold that a long time ago for way too cheap because that thing actually ended up going up. She also got a lot of movement on that X-Men Blue, that Venomized cover. For one reason or another, that was one of those darling variants that came out back in the day, where it just spiked like out of nowhere up to a couple $100. So that is a tough one, and also very, very expensive as well. And then Ironheart has always been another speculator's darling, if you will. So those types of variants have always also been pretty expensive. I think the X-Men and the A-Force, I think those are 1 in 25s, and I think the Ironheart is actually a 1 in 50. So none of them are cheap, and they're not all that easy to find, but just something to keep an eye out for. Another run that I liked because I have an affinity for the character of the Black Knight was she did the 1 in 25 covers for the 2021 series, the Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade. And those 1 in 25s all form, as you can see, pretty cool connecting cover set. So I did get all of these. Yeah, I paid like ratio or less as they were coming out because, like I said, I'm a fan of the series, and I like the image that it forms when you get them all together. It's pretty cool. So another thing to keep an eye out for. Maybe you can find these, tucked away somewhere cheap in a box at your shops, and they do. I think a couple of them might actually do a little bit more than ratio, but otherwise, you're going to want to look for cheap. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to be hard to put a whole set together without spending, because there's always going to be that one you can't find, and you got to end up paying for shipping and overpaying for it. But just something to do, something fun to hunt. Another cool cover that she did was this 1 in 25 for Jessica Jones. This is issue 3, and this one is very, very tough to find as well. I probably could have thrown this on a Chasing Ghosts episode because it's not an easy one to find. There are none that have sold in the last 3 months for this 1 in 25, and I was only able to find one raw copy out of the UK that's basically like 40 bucks. And then you got to pay $20 shipping out of the UK. So that's $60 for 1 in 25. That's more than double ratio. It's definitely not a cheap one. But pretty cool one you want to keep an eye out for if you can find it for cheap, because I kind of like the cover, and I do like the character of Jessica Jones, and I do hope to see her in the MCU again. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Some variants you might be able to find, that these are the next couple I'm going to talk about for Stephanie Hans, are these are some of the lower ratio incentives that might be easier to track down at your shops and your LCS, and may be a little bit more affordable that you can keep an eye out for. And the first one is a 1 in 15 for Guardians of the Galaxy number 20. And this is when they had those Stomp Out Bullying covers. They did some variants across a few Marvel titles. I think there was a Captain America one. I think there's a couple Captain America ones, but they were basically, for, anti-bullying. It was kind of like the program that they were running. And this was the 1 in 15 for Guardians of the Galaxy 20. And there were a lot of these printed. So this is not tough to find, even though it's a 1 in 15. So you can find this one out there. Granted, none have sold within the last 3 months because I just think people aren't looking for this book in particular. I mean, I like the tree line and it's pretty, pretty gorgeous scene. It looks like a Bob Ross painting to me. But the ones that are out there and available are relatively inexpensive when you consider it's a 1 in 15. You can see copies are out there for $10, under $5, $13 with free shipping. So all basically under the 1 in 15 ratio. So not an expensive one to grab. So if you like this cover or you're interested in Stephanie Hahn's art, this is one you can probably, scoop up for pretty cheap and add it to your PC if you like it. Some other little 1 in 10s or another ones that I want to talk about here are this 1 in 10 for New Avengers number 22. This is going back to the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, we got the two of them. See, they're promoting it down there at the bottom of the cover, but we got Quake there on this 1 in 10. So yeah, pretty cool little cover for Stephanie Hans. And this one is one that doesn't go for all that much. A copy sold back in July for $10, so basically sold it for ratio. And I found one copy out there right now as an example that it's only asking $5.79, so under $6. So it's under ratio. Even with shipping, you ended up going like $11 or $12 before taxes. So still not too bad if you're interested in that 1 in 10. Now, the last 1 in 10 I want to talk about is actually a more expensive one, and one that people have been hunting and speculating on for a while now because it is a Shuri cover, and this is Claws of the Panther. This was a mini series, a 5-issue mini series from back in the day, and this was the 1 in 10 cover. This is early in Stephanie Hans's career, so this is one of her early variants as well. So it's not going to be easy to find, and it's a pretty good one at a 1 in 10. And this thing sells for a solid amount. I mean, basically, you can see copies have been selling for like $20 plus, and then one had a best offer on $50. So don't know what they accepted on that one, but one's got to match probably 30 to 40, but still. 20 to like $40 seems to be the range that copies have sold for, but the asking prices on this one right now, at least, are a little steep. $75, $80 raw, and then $600 for a 9.8 if you were shopping. So, like I said, even though it's only a 1 in 10, this was not a heavily printed miniseries, and it is a popular miniseries for what it is, because we are getting, Black Panther 2 coming very soon. So this one's still probably going to be commanding a little bit of a premium right now. Your probably best bet, if you are interested, is to go shopping for it. If you're going to go shopping online, do it after the movie releases. So after November, start looking in maybe like January, and prices might come down on those Shuri books. Potentially, they could go up for all I know. But as history has shown us, people are always looking for the next thing. They don't really care about the current thing. So they start throwing their money at the next thing. So that's usually how it goes. So once a movie actually releases, books tend to come down for one reason or another. But that all said, still check your shops for this. I also like the regular run of this mini series on its own. It's a pretty good little set, the 5-issue set you can put together, and it does all right as well. So if you can find those for cheap, keep an eye out for those as well. But this is, again, to spotlight Stephanie Hans, and this 1 in 10 is why we have it here. Just to kind of keep going a little bit more on Ms. Stephanie Hans, we do have a couple of cover runs that she did, where she did a nice chunk of covers and even some interiors, I believe, throughout this. But in 2011, again, it's only like the second year of her comic work. She did 24 issues of this Journey into Mystery run. This was the young Loki run, the kid Loki. So we had a lot of first appearances that people have been picking up over the last couple of years. So some of these books have spiked. They're probably a little soft again right now because I don't think anybody's really hunting the Loki books again. Maybe as we start gearing up for Loki season 2, we start seeing an uptick again on some of these, like first Eichholz and first Thori, the dog and all that, and the little female, I can't remember her name. I can't off the top of my head, but his little female companion throughout this series as well. 24 issues, like I said, starting with issue 622, and then basically carrying it through to I believe not when it ended, when it shifted over to Sif after this, but 645 was the last issue, I believe, of Stephanie Hans's run on this title, and then it shifted over to, like I said, Lady Sif doing like a a nice little run there to kind of wrap it up eventually. But that all said, these books, like I said, some of these have spiked, so some of these were a little bit pricier. You can see like issue 625 sold for like 18 bucks, but then you can also see lots. This is the type of thing. If you're interested in your shopping, look for lots because 12 bucks got somebody a nice little lot between 623 to 645. There's 11 comics in there, so 11 comics for 12 bucks. That's a little more than $1 an issue. It's not too bad, but at the same time, some of those individual issues can sell for like 15 to 20 bucks occasionally as too. But check your shops. That's the whole point of the series, is to give you ideas of things to go look for when you hit your LCSs, because we do need to support our local comic shops and check their back issues and show them a little love. But what's sold, I mean, what's available for this one, you can see again, asking prices on a lot of these issues, even if some of them are first appearances of, like I said, those characters like Eichel and Thori and things like that. Issue 622, 24, even 626. They're like 15 to like $18 a lot of times. That's the asking prices. Again, you can find cheaper ones, you can find them in lots, but that's kind of the baseline of some of the first appearance issues right now in that like 15 to $18 kind of range. So just so you're aware. She also did both runs of Angela. So we're looking at Angela, Asgard's Assassin in 2015. She did the cover run on all of the 6 issues there for that run. And again, this is a book that does okay because of the introduction of the trans character Sarah, I believe, in that first issue. So this is another one to keep an eye out for in particular. The first issue, all of the covers are great, but issue 1 seems to be the one people kind of focus in on. Granted, $6, and then the whole set can go up to like 50. That's recent sales. Asking prices, however, you can see number one could be asking 20 to 25 bucks, or you can see it starting bidding at like $10 for issue 1 and 2 together. So prices are still kind of all over the place. If you're patient and you wait, you can probably get cheap copies even online. But like I said, this is the kind of thing go check your shops for. I found this book at dollar bins. A lot of those Marvel books from that time when we were getting all of the miniseries and whatnot have found their way into those cheap bins at one time or another. Granted, now it might be a little tougher, but I found it in there before. I'm going to keep looking for it because they could be out there. So Angela Asgard's Assassin #1 is probably the best one of that first miniseries, and then she also did the second run, which was only 7 issues, and she only did 6 of the 7 issues. I think she skipped issue 6. That might have been 5 or 6. One of those ones she didn't do the cover. You can obviously see it. You can see it in the art that it's not Stephanie Hans, but you can see here issue 1 as an example, issue 3, and then that final issue 7, which also last issue gets that last issue bump as well. So again, this is something you might look for in lots. See individual copies selling for like $4. The whole 7 run set selling for $30. It's not too bad. I mean, that's like cover less, yeah. But asking prices also could be in that $3 for issue 1, $42 for the whole 7 issue run. And then you can see, like I said, issue 7, that final issue could seek a premium in that like $15 kind of range right now because it is the last issue of the run. And some of those, again, they do command a premium because they're lower printed. Series gets canceled, series ends, and as it winds down, they become harder to find. They're not as easy to find. They're not as plentiful as the rest, so they get a little extra. But we got a little bit more. I know you guys are probably like, Stephanie Hans, that's enough. Well, we got a little bit more. Storm in 2014 is another cover run that she did. 9 issues here. Not from the start. It was like issues. I think she started with issue 3 and then up through issue 11. So 3, yeah, I think that's how it worked out. So I think she only missed 2 of the 11 issues because issue 11 is the final of the run. And another situation where final issue bump. This one does better than the rest. So you can see here, it's like 10 to 20 bucks for that last issue of Storm. Just for there's nothing else really speculation wise on these books that I recall. I don't think there's first appearances and things like that. This is really just cover art and just last issue kind of desirability. Available copies, like I said, you can see just random issues could be like $5 out there, and then this final issue could be asking, like I said, upwards of $20 because it is the last issue, and yeah, folks seek that premium. Now, just to quickly wrap us up here, there are a couple other random one-off issues that you could still grab if you're interested in Stephanie Hans art that you still might be able to sneak, even out of dollar boxes. Just random issues. Again, just for the cover art alone. This Thunderbolts issue is pretty cool. Issue 155. It's near the end of that original Thunderbolts run. And we know we're getting a Thunderbolts movie. I don't have to say that has any real bearing on this, but still, it's a pretty cool cover that you could get out there for pretty darn cheap. Look, copy sold for like $3 back in August, end of August, and then even now, copies available are only like $2 to $4. So it's cover price to half cover price. So you could probably find something like this, like I said, real cheap in your shop, maybe even in the dollar bin if you're interested in this particular issue. Or you might want to shift over to maybe a Dark Wolverine issue that you did. Pretty cool cover here with the, kind of like a throne of blood almost pouring down with the water. I don't know. I think the Dakin, however you say his name, I think he's an underrated character and another and one that we should see more of, hopefully, again in the comics. But this cover is pretty cool. This is issue 87, and you can see here that this one sells. Just, again, it's pretty cheap, $2 to $5. It's like cover price and less copies have sold for this. So this is, again, if you're looking for Stephanie Hahn's cover art for cheap, this is an option for you. Pretty cool cover. So even copies available online. There's one up there for $1. So you can even buy it for $1 online. Granted, you got to pay shipping, but still $1 online, $3, $4. Definitely a cheap book. But again, one you can probably find the dollar bins if you go digging and are patient. So that's what I got for you for Stephanie Hans. Again, she's got some gorgeous cover work and some variants that she's done over the years. This is just some of it, just some spotlights, a little bit of a highlight, some stuff that sticks out in my mind when I think of her art, and it's because her art is pretty distinctive, and you can usually kind of see it once you see a cover and you go, oh, well, that's a Stephanie Hans cover. So with that, let me know what you think in the comments, and share any books that you have, any cool variants or cool covers you have for Stephanie Hans, or share your favorites. Tag me on IG because I'd love to see them. Now, let's go move on to the rest of our hidden gems, and we're going to pivot on over to everybody's favorite, or at least my favorite, variants. I don't know why I like variants, but I do. And here I'm going to look at a few X23 variants. And these are things, again, when I'm looking at variants here in hidden gems, I'm not looking for those impossible to find, super hard to find, high ratio things. That's more appropriate for chasing ghosts. What I want to talk about and spotlight here are those like lower ratios, those easier to find books. Granted, they could be expensive and they could be more expensive than you realize, but things like this, like a 1 in 10. So this is the 1 in 10 for X23 Target X #1. Pretty cool cover. I think, I want to say it's a Jurdovic. I'm not 100%, can't remember 100%, but this one does all right on its own if you can find it. As you can see, 20 to $30, not too bad. Yeah, it is a Marco Jurdovic cover. So 20 to $30 for a 1 in 10 ain't too bad. Those are actual sale prices over the last couple of months there. And then we have asking prices, you can see, are actually a little bit steeper than those sale prices, where the asks right now are more $40, $50, $70 raw for this book. And this is for a 1 in 10 because, again, X23 still sells. X23 is still a character a lot of people collect, and they pay a premium for her covers. They pay a premium for her variants, even if they are not that tough to find, or shouldn't be that tough to find, I should say. That said, I got another 1 in 10 from the all-new Wolverine series when she was headlining it. Granted, plenty of 1 in 25s throughout, but again, I'm looking at the 1 in 10s because they should be easier. And here we have that classic homage to the Batman slapping Robin. But we got, again, X23, Laura Kinney instead slapping Deadpool. So 1 in 10. This is on issue 4 of All New Wolverine. I actually really like the 1 in 25 on this. It's a gorgeous yellow cover. Kind of pops in. I think it's just underrated. It's just a gorgeous cover. I think it's Ryan Sook possibly. But this is the 1 in 10 for this book. And again, 10 to $20. So ratio to double ratio, not too bad for what it's actually selling for. So maybe you can find this at your shop. Maybe you can even find it for a regular price, a regular cover price. But copies online, again, despite the $10 to $20 sales, the asking prices for right now are a little higher in that $28 to $40 raw range, $150 for a 9.8. So you can be patient. Maybe you can find one of those cheap ones, because those other two are both auctions. Those are lower price auctions that ended up going with 1 or 2 bids, because, again, this is a book that not a lot of people are looking for. So all that's left right now are those buy it nows that usually have that higher ask, and they may field some offers. So take a shot on the buy it now, the best offers as well. If you're really interested, make an offer. Make your best offer, even if you think it's real low. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask, but just don't be insulted. Don't offer like $1. Just be realistic in your expectations. That said, I think I got another one for you that's actually pretty cool. And this one got popular too when it came out for one reason or another. There's 1 in 25, so this issue 20. But for whatever reason, the 1 in 10, maybe it's just the cover with her and Gabby that just really grabbed people. I like it. I dig it too. but this is just the 1 in 10, so there should be plenty of these out there. And this one does all right if you can find it. So best offers accepted on all of these prices, but the asking prices started at 55, 89, $70 for a 1 in 10. So not a cheap ask for this 1 in 10. And even if you look now, what's out there? $50, $65, $90. It's a lot for a 1 in 10, but it's just one of those covers I think people like, despite the fact that there's probably plenty of them out there. That's it. Oh, I thought I was done, but no, I am not. I do have another one for you, and we have another all new Wolverine to cover, and this is another one with Deadpool, but this one time it's Gabby and Deadpool on issue 21, so the next issue in the series. Again, another 1 in 10. Pretty cool. Looks like it's like Kirk, so Christian Kirk, maybe on the cover of this one. And this one again, it doesn't do like the last issue. It's nowhere near like that. So this is $2.22 when actually sold for it. So this is a 1 in 10 that sold for half of cover price, basically, with 3 bids at auction. So again, check those auctions. These types of books that aren't the hot books, these aren't the books that are on the tips of everybody's list, the tops of their list, or the tip of their tongue, and all that stuff. So these are things you might be able to sneak for cheap if you find them at auction. So as a buyer, search auctions. As a seller, don't list this type of stuff at auction. You're just going to end up disappointed. Just be patient and do the buy it now. I would only recommend auctioning the hot books, the things that people are looking for right now. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice. Unless you like giving books away to people, then hey, do what you want. Auction them off. Asking prices, however, 20, 20, 35 bucks. So, double ratio, but you could see one that actually sold $2, $2.22. So it is what it is. Let's move on to later prints. The later printings, I like covering these as well. And the first one is going to kind of piggyback off of our all new Wolverine real fast. And we're going to look at that all new Wolverine number 25. This is that lenticular cover. I've mentioned these before. The second prints for those lenticular covers that Marvel had basically across the entire run. They had these homage lenticular covers. And this one is, again, when they did the second print, there's no lenticular. It's just the second printing of the baseline image underneath. So you don't got the original morphing into the new art. It's just the new art on the cover. And this is an homage to what was this? Is this the Doctor Doom Iron Man cover? I can't think of the number. That's what it looks like to me. But issue 25, all new Wolverine. So you got Dakin going up against X-23. And again, this one does okay for just being a second print. I mean, sure, one sold for like $7, but the other ones are like $20 plus. So that's kind of what this thing's selling for, and the asking prices are again in that kind of a oddball range where you can see there's cheap copies only asking $8, but then there's a lot of other copies asking 25 to 30. So it's just timing. So once those cheap copies are gone, the prices go up quite a bit. So if you're shopping, maybe pay attention now to the cheap copies and grab them while you can, because that's what you got to do sometimes. But check your shops. Maybe you can find this for even cheaper, maybe cover price or even less. As all these lenticular covers are kind of worth looking at. There's a couple other ones that do pretty well, but this is just another one I just wanted to kind of talk about real quick. Moving on to Amazing Spider-Man, issue 666. Yes, lucky number 666 with Spider Island. Pretty cool Spider-Man cover for this, second printing. And, I got a lot of Spidey covers to cover with this, and they all do pretty well. Like second printing Spideys do okay. Here's another example, $25 just for this random second printing. Granted, it's part of Spider Island, but outside of that, I don't think there's much else going on with this particular book that is at least at the top of my mind. But asking prices also in that $15 kind of range, and then there's a 9.8 asking $400 for this particular second printing. So just one of those things. Keep an eye out for it. Maybe you find it for cheap at your shop, and you can make yourself a couple of bucks. And I know you're probably not going to believe it, but I actually do have a DC book for you this week. I got a DC second print for you. Agent Orange, Larfleeze, first appearance, Green Lantern, number 39. I had remembered looking for this book for a while. I found it, and I was happy to get it. I like Larfleeze. He is one of my favorite other Green Lanterns. It was part of that Jeff Johns run when we got all the different colors of the different, types of lanterns, and I really dug Larfleeze. So this was one I definitely wanted to get, and I'm glad that I did, because when you see the prices now, I'm kind of shocked. I hadn't realized how much this had gone up, but actual sold price is $55. It looks like a 9.8 CBCS sold at auction for only $122. Why I say only $122, you'll see that seems like a bargain once we get to the asking prices. But even at $50, $55, that's a little bit more than I thought. This was more like in that kind of $30, $35 range for so long. And I was happy to find it for cheaper. I think I found it for like five or so at my shop. So I was happy to get it. But now, when we look at the asking prices, they're much higher 75, 120, 150, 143, 44. So a lot of these raw asking these are all raw, by the way. A lot of the raw asking prices right now are well above that 122.50 for that CBCS 9.8. So that's why I said pay attention. That might be a little bit of a bargain when you look at what else is out there. Granted, there are the $75 copies out there, even at 120, but still steep ask for the second printing. First appearance of Agent Orange, Larfleeze on this Green Lantern number 39. So keep an eye out for it. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe you can find it. All right, moving on. I think our last segment for today and for this week is my nostalgia picks. I do got a couple of quick ones. Just going to go over these kind of fast. Not a lot to talk about, but I like going back and I like looking at the again nostalgia. It makes me think of my youth. And one of the things that I want to talk about this week are Zoids. Yes, these like mechanical, motorized type toys. I didn't have a lot of them, but I do remember them. In 1982, the Zoids came out from Tomy, and I know that toy line they did more of those the original Transformers and things like that. So definitely an interesting toy company of the time, and the Great Gorgon. Look at some of these things, and of course you had the mighty Zoidzilla. So basically the Zoid version of Godzilla is probably the most popular Zoid. But yes, these are toys. How does this equate to comics? Well, as I mentioned before with the magazine sections, granted, these aren't really magazines. These are just oversized comics out of the UK. Maybe you can get lucky finding these things, like those G.I. Joes, the Action Force G.I. Joes or the Transformers. They're a little bit bigger. They're very, very thin. They're very, very fragile. But keep an eye out for these UK books because some of them can be quite collectible and they're kind of fun to have too. And why I'm talking about Zoids is because there was a run of Spider-Man and Zoids together. It was basically you got a Spider-Man story and you got a Zoid story. And back in 1986, that's when we got the Zoids in these comics out of the UK. So you can see here, Spider-Man. This is the black suit Spider-Man at the time. Look, we even got the Hobgoblin story covered in these issues. And again, you had a little Zoids kind of like backup inside as well. Again, very, very thin, very, very flimsy books. Not a lot to them, but pretty cool. And there's like 54 issues, 55 issues, I think thereabouts. So keep an eye out for any of them if you can find them, because copies can sell, maybe on like $7, $10. But look at that. There's a not a near complete, but a decent run from issue 2 to 44, $220 for those Zoids and Spider-Man UK books. So if you can get a bunch of them, you can get them in a lot. Find a nice chunk of a run at a shop somewhere, even a Goodwill or wherever you find your cheap comics and things. Maybe you find this, maybe you can make yourself a few bucks because the asking prices as well could be decent. The first issue asking, $40 plus, where some random issues could get you like $20 or $10. So it is what it is. It's just something to keep an eye out for. It's just something oddball, something fun. Maybe not everybody remembers Zoids, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who do. And those are the people who might give you a couple of bucks extra if you can find this stuff. Now, there was a reprint annual also in 1986 that kind of collected some of these UK stories and put them together in a book. And that is this issue here. This is Zoid's annual. I think this is the one that actually came out here on the US state side. So there's really only the annual here from 1986 to kind of keep an eye out for. No copies have sold recently of this thing. But asking prices, yeah, $15, $30, $70, various grades and ranges and prices. But this is just one of those things that's not going to be that easy to find. This is Marvel UK 1986. And it also lists as a hardcover. So it's another thing. Maybe you find this in the trade paperback section or something like that, because it's probably just like a little prestige format kind of thing. I don't actually have this. I don't know what this actually looks like. I'm just going off of what I found here online. But apart from all of those Zoids and Spider-Man Zoids, we did also have this issue to want to keep an eye out for. This special, also out of Marvel. Granted, a couple of years later, this is 1988, but this is a free book that they gave away. So keep an eye out for it, because this is the kind of weird stuff I like finding too, like those free books, those giveaways, those promotional things. No copies have sold recently. No copies are available. So I don't know what this thing can go for. I know it's not a first appearance of any of them, but it's still one of those oddball things that I would love to find if you can get it. And again, it looks like it's a little bit oversized, but it's still on the Marvel side of things. And this is a free special, promotional giveaway. So keep an eye out for it. One more quick little subsection to cover in our nostalgia, going off of, like I said, I mentioned the Transformers, the early Transformers that I think came out of Tomy, but we also had GoBots. You guys remember GoBots? I know a lot of people call them the bootleg Transformers, but I think that GoBots actually showed up first, and Transformers just kind of did it better, in my opinion. I was always more of a Transformer guy than a GoBot guy, though I did have a few of these GoBots, especially these early figures, with the jet and that red car. I can't remember all their names. Psykill, the little motorcycle dude, the bad guy, and that helicopter. I had a lot of them. I might even had all of them, but they still weren't quite the same as my Transformers. I don't know. Maybe it's because the cartoon was superior. The Transformers cartoon was better than the cartoon I think we did get for GoBots, which it was all right, but I don't know. It wasn't quite the same. So here we did have a GoBots cartoon as well. Not a lot of other promotional material other than that back in the day. So there was no, like, the Transformers had a comic, GI Joe had a comic. We didn't have a GoBots comic, but we did have some giveaways. I believe this was in 1984. We had these little 3-part insert little mini comics that came in your Cookie Crisp, not Cocoa Crisp, your Cookie Crisp. So in the cereal boxes, you can find these little mini issues of these comics in there. So that's the best we got for our GoBots. If you want to go early GoBot comic book hunting or first GoBots in comics, this is what you're going to have to look for, these little mini comics. And granted, I love it when I find these mini comics anywhere, especially in the dollar boxes, but it's going to be a tough ask to really track these things down. It came out of a cereal box, for God's sake. But no copies have sold recently of this thing, and there are no copies available of these particular ones that came out of the cereal box that I could find. There was like another, like, it looks like another it said picture story, so I think it was a different giveaway book. Could have been even out of Wendy's, because I think Wendy's did something like that back in the day where they had like little books. But this is what we had here. And yes, IDW did make a GoBot series many decades later, but that early 80s stuff, this is really all you got to go on. There are no other comics for you to find. So that's my little GoBots shtick for this week. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you enjoyed this series still. Thanks for stopping by and checking this out. I'm recording this on Sunday, so now I got to go get ready to do Star Wars and the Star Wars show. And I'll have to just film Chasing Ghosts tomorrow, because I wanted to get both of them done to get kind of ahead of the game, because I have been behind. I've been struggling with this illness and fighting off these cold symptoms, and just doing my best and doing what I can. So thanks for bearing with me. Hopefully you're enjoying this as well as everything else. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Share stuff that you like as well. Tag me on Instagram. I love seeing your guys' books. I see the ideas. It gives me ideas. It gives me things to talk about and share with everybody else. Just, you might find some cool stuff that I think is worth sharing with everybody else, because, this is a community after all. Let's just enjoy this hobby and enjoy talking about comics. And with that all said, thanks again. I'm going to try to keep up the regular schedule and the regular pace as best I can. And I'll see you guys soon with some more content. All right. Later.